Yo, peace and love. This is your boy Nasty, super producer, engineer, artist, everything, hip hop, all day on the Better Days Show podcast.
Welcome, Nasty,
Hey,
on the Better Days Show podcast.
yes sir.
How you doing, man? What's good? What's good,
I'm chilling.
family?
I'm chilling, brother. Peace to you, man. How you, man? I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, no doubt.
You
You
got some
know,
great ass time, so I'm really, I'm glad to connect with family.
yeah, same here, man.
Word.
So yeah, Nasty, how you got started in the game, man?
So I started really just with the DJing thing. I just wanted to be part of hip hop, and I couldn't break dance, and I couldn't do graffiti. And I was like, yo, I have to be a part of this. How? And then I saw Jam Master Jay like 1985 on TV or something. And
Hmm.
I was like, that's what I'm doing. I literally announced it to my family, like, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
What I'm gonna do for my life. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
Hmm.
so I'm like 15, yeah, it's 13, something like that. And then by 14, I had some turntables and I started going. By 17, I was already doing gigs. I saved up a whole year for a 1200, saved up a whole next year for another 1200.
Hmm.
Got my set together and I just rocked. And I was like more into scratching than DJing, like as far as partying. And so I kind of went backwards. Like I had to learn how to blend after I was like already a good scratch DJ. So that's really how I started, just scratching. Like I just thought scratching was the illest thing ever.
Hmm.
And that was like we're talking the beginning of scratching, get to that next level where it's like Jazzy Jeff and Transformer scratch. That's really when I'm learning how to do it.
Right. Um.
So so that just got me started, and then I once I knew I could make some money, I did a couple parties as a kid, and I was like, oh shit, I just made $200. I'm 16.
Right.
You know, like I was with it, and that was it. It just started rolling from there.
Where are you from? I know, but tell the
Yeah,
people.
yeah. So I was born in Alston, Massachusetts.
Hmm.
My roots are all around Boston, and in my teenage years, I lived out in Waltham.
Walk there.
Yep.
And
But I lived all around. I lived like before that. I like all in between. I lived in New Orleans. My dad's a musician, so I lived in New Orleans. I lived in
mm,
Austin, Texas. I lived in New York City. I lived out in L.A. Like I always try to tell people, like, yo, I got roots out in Waltham, but like that's a very small part of like my DNA. You know what I'm saying? Like my
hmm.
grandma had a house out there forever, so it was like that. And then so Boston's my root. You know what I'm saying? Like and then Brooklyn.
Around that time, um, I guess you had just got your turntables, and we met
Mhm.
at this record store called Looney Tunes. You remember
World,
that?
world famous. Yep. I
Yeah.
remember. I remember it clearly, bro, because I was in there with my mom. Remember?
Yep.
And she pulled a break out. You remember? She pulled
Yeah.
out a record like, "Yo, this might have a break on."
Yeah, I definitely
You're like,
remember.
"This is your mom's." I'm like, "Yeah." You like, bro, we gonna hang out.
Right. I think like couple days after, we came to your house,
Yep.
and you were like the second cat that I saw with two silver techniques
Right. The
and a
real
and
set.
a 4 track.
Yep. A real setup.
Yeah,
Yeah. By
man.
then I was. Yeah. By then I was full power. By then I
Right.
was really like high powered with it. Like, okay, I got a 4 track. Got this little. I had the little drum machine for a second.
Mhm.
707, rolling
Right.
707,
Right.
and yeah. So when I met you, did I had I already connected with the people that played on the BDP album, or did that happen after we met? Because it's right around the same
You
time, but I
you
don't know if it was before or
yeah,
after.
you were connected with them.
Okay, so I had
cuz
did the demo
cuz
that they had produced.
right, right.
Okay, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
crazy time because I knew this shit was going.
Yeah, because we
You
were
know,
like some dude connected with, uh, BDP and living in Waltham. As
yeah.
kids, we were like, all
Yo,
right,
how does
man.
this
Yeah,
happen? Even
right.
me, I'm like, how does this happen? I graduated school.
Hmm.
and I moved to, and then I made an audition that they picked me for a DJ for this group called Unity 2. They were signed to Reprise Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
First, one of the first hip hop bands, like actual bands. And I was the DJ, and that was it. I moved. I graduated, and like a month later, I was living in New York City. I was DJing for them, and a couple of the people that played in that band were playing with KRS One on Ghetto Music and Edutainment.
Mm.
So that's how I met them. I met them through my big bro Kevin Batchelor is a trumpet player that played on mad reggae shit, but he played on Blueprint Ghetto Music,
Mm-hmm.
and he was on Edutainment too. And him and his partner Sidney Mills, they came to Boston and produced our demo. Like it's a crazy story. My pops was a bass player in a reggae band,
Mm-hmm.
and then they brought me in as the DJ. So we would play all around Boston, Massachusetts. We would play out
Mm-hmm.
in Worcester. Like I was in senior year already playing big gigs. Like remember the Hub Club?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was already playing. I was kids that was sneaking in from my high school to the Hub Club was coming in and seeing me up on the DJ booth. Like,
Right. I think I remember hearing um about the band because you guys used to probably perform at Venus de Milo.
yep,
Um,
mm-hmm.
was it was a reggae spot. I don't know if it's a different what was you remember the
The band.
night the
Oh,
night
the night.
name?
Nah, I don't remember.
It
The night
was
escaped
right
me.
next to Venus, or it was a night that they call, but it was all reggae.
Yeah,
It was all reggae night right there
yeah,
on Lansdowne.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So we was all around with that band, and then it turned out the dude that played saxophone in the band
Uh huh.
grew up with that dude Kevin Batchelor, who at the time had just finished Edutainment album with KRS.
Right.
So they came to produce our demo for the band.
Right.
And then they saw me, my pops, and my mom, seeing that like I'm bred for, like my parents bred me for this, So he just took a real deal, like, yo, you got talent and you got the right attitude to make it.
Hmm.
So
And
he was like, once you get that paper, once you get that diploma, that paper, call me. I called him the next day. I got the diploma. I called him the next day. Like, I'm free. Tell me what we doing.
right. And what year was that?
That's 1990.
90.
Yep, 1990. It was like going into the final stretch of like getting ready to graduate school, and
Right.
I'm playing all these gigs. I'm barely making it to school on, you know what I mean? Like I'm missing half of school because I'm already in my career. I got my mom telling the school like, "Yo, he ain't coming for them first three classes. Like, you don't seem to get it. I'm signing off on this. Like, he's good. He's doing his career already." And they were like, but it didn't matter because here, look, 30 years later, I'm 10 times platinum and whatever, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Now you left Boston, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
you moved to New York. What did you end up doing in New York? Was it like more engineering or DJing?
It was mostly just DJing for. It was less like DJing for parties and more DJing for groups.
Mm,
And that's how I got cool with BDP because I started DJing for Harmony.
okay.
And we were just doing regular shows, just me and her showing up and doing little, 15-minute sets. We did a really big one at the CMJ. Remember CMJ, the College
Mm-hmm.
Music Journal shit?
Mm-hmm.
We did a huge show. It was funny. We did a show. It was Power Rule opened up for us. Then it was me and Harmony, and then Kid Rock
Mm,
early when he was a rapper, and so I was really doing that. Was like my income was, and what I was really hustling with was DJing a party here and there, but mostly doing performance DJ with. I was with that Unity 2 band, and that was like gigs. That was like, yo, we're playing SOBs next weekend. Like, all right, cool. And so that was, and I learned quick that I needed to hustle. So as I was starting to learn about producing, because I didn't realize that I was always producing with the four
right.
track and, and,
Mm-hmm.
and looping beats and shit. once I learned that that was producing, I just started going in the studio with artists. I started working with a dude from BDP called Sha.
Mm.
He's a lesser known guy, but he was on the KRS One produced album by Sly and Robbie.
Right.
He was like the main rapper on that album.
Mm-hmm.
So me and him got cool through the BDP thing. We got cool, and then we started a group, and that led me to more knowing what producing was, and
Mm-hmm.
then what engineering was. Yeah, so within about a year of that, like doing demos and bringing records in and having the engineer loop them and mix them, I was like, I think I could probably learn how to do this part.
And talking about engineering, what was the first studio you started engineering?
It was in Brooklyn. It was called Fiber Studios. It's not there anymore. But what was so dope about it was that it had like the high level quality, meaning like 2 inch tape back then was like the top shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you knew if a studio had 2 inch tape that it was a had to have some sort of high quality going on.
Right.
So it was dope because it was in Brooklyn and it had 2 inch tape, but the rate was good. So we were doing our demos there. And then one day I just told the engineer, like, yo, give me a job over here, man. You see, I'm figuring this shit out. Like, and they gave me an internship. I didn't know what internship was,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over there, I'm just in the hood in Bed-Stuy living, like just trying to hustle. And then I'm like, all right, what's an internship? I didn't know it was slavery, you know what I'm saying? But so I did that for like 2 weeks where I was like cleaning the toilets and real intern work. You know what I'm saying? They had me mowing the lawn and shit.
Yeah.
So then I just was like, yo, listen, you could pay me to be a slave, but I can't give up my time like this, man. And they were
Right.
like, you quit. They loved me. So they were like, oh, you quitting? I was like, I ain't quitting. I got a business proposition for you.
Right.
And they was like, what? I was like, what if I bring you clients? You show me how to work the shit. Paying clients. You show me how to work the shit. They were like, you have clients? I have clients.
Right.
They were like, well, if you could do that, let's work something out. I said, okay, cool. I called up some people. Incidentally, the first person I booked there was DJ Spinner, my boy.
Mm.
I went to high school. When I lived in New York as a kid, I went to high school with him.
Okay.
We went to Julia Richmond at the Talent Unlimited program,
Okay.
which a lot of New Yorkers, that's like, oh, wow. They're going to be like, oh, wow, you went to Richmond? So Spinner was my boy from high school. We had reconnected when I got back to New York in
Mm-hmm.
90. And then I was like, yo, I got this studio, bro. It's like 40 an hour, 2 inch tape. He was like, sign me up. So that week I brought in like two clients. They made a couple racks. The studio did.
Right.
They were they were like nasty. At first they were like, for every hour you book, we'll give you a half hour of learning.
Mm-hmm.
Then I brought in so much money right in the first month or so that they were like, yo, just be around and we'll show you this shit. And they were some genius engineer dudes. So they were like, you know what I mean? Like they explained it to me in a way that all the stuff they taught me is still in my mind to this day. Recording, being a good recording engineer and miking. I kind of learned how to mix on my own, but they gave me the basics on that. And back then it was a big one to know was MIDI.
Right. Right. MIDI was very important to know.
That was
And
the shit back then.
right. What was the mixer board they had there?
They had an Allen and Heath. I can't remember the number, but it was an Allen and Heath board.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is that there was the same board my boy Bobby Condors, the reggae producer and DJ, bought. He bought the same board right around the same time. It was
Mm.
like it was a crazy lineup because I learned on that board, and then he was able to like hire me to mix all the reggae records on his label, and because it was the same board.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I'm learning to engineer, and I was right away out the gate getting bread. So I was like, oh, this is more bread than DJing as far as just hustling.
Right.
Because it started being more and more consistent, and the hours were, you know what it is, bro. Back then, with the analog, a session is 10 hours, like for real. Like you're not doing 6 hours unless you already got the beat on tape, and you know what I'm saying. Like you there to
Mm-hmm.
make beats and put them on tape and then voice them. That's a long time. So I was like, oh, this money stacks up quick. Like my first paying gig was I engineered the Lords of Brooklyn
Mm.
album, and they paid me. The label paid me $15 an hour.
Right.
to record them, and I was like, I am in the money. Like I barely got out of high school. Like I had there's no fallback. Like this is all I have. So to get $15 an hour to roll a blunt and record these dudes, I was like, Mama, I made it.
Yeah, man.
You know, and it took off from there because the difference was in them times, early '90s, was that people still looked at hip hop like a joke industry. Like, oh, they ain't even music. So a lot of them engineers, they hadn't made that money. There's no Diddy yet. You know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
no $1 million for an album. So I was one of the first waves of like, after Paul C and that wave of hip hop engineers, I'm the first wave with like Duro and cats like that.
And I know you were working at the cutting room.
Yep. That was about maybe 2 years after working out of that place, Fiber.
You went straight to cutting room, right?
What it was is I was one of my engineer mentors is this guy Ricky Saint Hilaire.
Mm-hmm.
This dude's a legend. Like at the time he was doing all the Busta Rhymes shit. Uh and he mixed everybody though. He mixed like Whitney Houston, all that shit. So he was someone I looked up to, and we were, I started knowing him through the industry. And one day I just was like, because I was broke, I was like, yo, man, I need a fucking gig, bro. And he was like, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna go to this new studio called the Cutting Room.
Mm.
I was like, I am? Like,
Right.
what studio's that? You know what I mean? And he was like, no, it's a new studio. It's about to blow up, and you're the perfect fit. So you're gonna go over there. And I was like, well, can you at least call them and give me the super duper big engineer intro? And he
Right.
was like, got you. So I went over there and they hired me on the spot.
Mm.
And they hired me. They said, before we hire as an engineer, we need you to be, this is a bigger level than that studio you'll come from. So you need to assist. So they had me assist. I was the worst assistant ever created in engineering. I was a great personable, like everyone loved me. That's why I probably lasted. But I just wasn't built for that part. That's the part of me that knows I'm not really an engineer. I'm more of a producer and creative and then eventually artist that knows how to engineer really good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw engineers and was like, oh, these dudes are engineers. Like, get excited about new gear. And like in this day and age, they get excited about new plugins. I'm just like, how does it work? Quick, I just want to make my shit hard and keep it moving. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I knew I was more of that. But because hip hop was like this new thing, and as far as those big budgets, mid 90s, because that's what we're talking about with the Cutting was like 95. And so because I was who I am from the hood, just being like, yeah, I'm just a hip hop dude that know how to engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was producing too. Like by that time, I had produced some stuff for Atlantic Records, this group called Hard to Obtain. I think you remember that, right? Those dudes with SD50,
Mm.
Dante Ross and Geeby and all them.
Okay.
Like I was in the mix, like doing cuts for people on records. I did a lot of cuts on Curious George album. I did some cuts.
That was Curious George, the album that was on Columbia.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, yep. I did some cuts on there because SD50 was involved in the production.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I got to the Cutting Room, I had produced some stuff. I had engineered stuff. Like I had a really sick resume because it was like, wow, you already produced stuff for, 'cause I'm like, let's see, if 95, I'm like, what, 22, 23?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was they had me as the assistant, and they was realizing that like, all right, we need to give him a chance at engineering because he's not the best assistant, but we love him.
Right.
Like, cause I made the client so feel comfortable and like they were with their homies,
Mm-hmm.
cause they turned to me like, yo, you got a backwood? Yup. That's before it all. Like that's the only place that was like that was D&D at the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was a certain sound. Not everybody wanted that underground, you know, D&D had that, bass heavy. Not everybody wanted that though. They was looking for other spots, but they would go to D&D because of the vibe. You,
Yeah.
you could get fucking Phillies out the vending machine back then in
Mm-hmm.
D&D. So for me to be this dude in like a more high end, very clean looking, it's not an underground studio. They were working with like, Bruce Hornsby during the day, and then what happened was Loud Records and Mobb Deep and all these cats were doing sessions and I was the assistant. And then they decided to throw me on some of those sessions as the engineer because they were like, you know what? I know he knows how to engineer. We're just worried about if something go wrong, is he going to know what to do? Like, cause he's still just young and he's still a knucklehead, but he's smart. Like that's how they looked at me, the management. So they threw me on some Mobb Deep sessions. Mob Havoc and them was like, yeah, we want him again. And the rest is history at that spot because I became the man. By within a year, I was the head engineer, and I was saying what we doing, like as far as the staff.
So you started engineering, Mobb Deep, and how did Dead Prez came into play?
It
Now
was
you're at the studio. Tell us about that.
yeah. So it was like Loud Records because Mob like Havoc like rocked with me that much.
Mm,
Loud Records started knowing about me in the studio,
okay.
and so it started to become a go-to place for Loud Records to get shit done.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know even if they couldn't get me, they would ask me who do we get over there if you're not available, and I'd be like, yo, get this guy, get that guy, because I was staffing it so that we could do all this hip hop, because they had their engineers for doing the rock music and the other genres. They had their engineers, so I was like trying to build up the hip hop rep, and it was working. And Loud Records took notice, so they put me in with Dead Prez, and we clicked immediately. We just, on the same wavelength about the world and shit. So, and I was just like, these guys are incredible. I just loved how Loud was just every artist that they brought was just fire. Like it was so crazy their roster. Like, because I worked with everyone on Loud. Like at that time, I probably touched every record that came out on Loud in some way, some little bit, but some in major ways. Like Dead Prez, I ended up recording probably I would say about 2/3 of the album.
Mm-hmm.
And then my boy Christos Santillis, that's my another mentor of mine. It's one of those situations where I wasn't available, and they were like, "Well, who can we get over there?" And I was like, "Get my boy Christos." And I was like, "He's actually my mentor," and they were like, "Oh, bet." So Christos came in and he did the rest of the album, and then I think he mixed it.
After Dead Prez, when you check the liner notes, you started recording with Big Pun, right?
Yep, yep,
Tell us
yep,
about, you know,
yeah.
Big Pun, like some stories about the Big Pun sessions, because he's one of my favorites, man.
One of the best ever
Yeah.
on that microphone. Yeah. So because I'm the go-to guy with Loud, it would be on and off sessions of just getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they'd hit me like, yo, we need to record Prodigy for Pun album. There would be sessions, a lot of sessions like that. Yo, Deck got to record for that. All the stuff that was associated with Loud. I know Pun was on Loud, but like all the Loud stuff we did,
Mm-hmm.
that's all me. Like the Dead Prez skit with Pun, um, Dream Shatterer. Shout out to my man Domingo. We always laugh about it. Like, yo, man, that was a crazy time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
because there was a lot of I mean, it's out now, everyone knows, but it's like there was a lot of sample clearances in the beginning on that Pun album that they couldn't, so they had to remix a lot of songs because Pun wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do a different song. He'd be like, go find the beat. He'd tell the A&R, like, go find the beat for it, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I already mastered my flow on that shit. Go find a beat that works.
That work. That works
Yeah.
for the
Yep.
vocals. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it was a lot of that kind of work, and just uh, uh, I did all the skits on the whole album. So that was like me and Pun and the whole Cuban Link, all them crazy ass dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And literally it's like, so when we were doing the skits, like the packing them back in the back of the act type shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pun would explain it to us. And I'm like, yo, this is like real acting, bro. And he's like, yeah, that's how I want it. I want it to be mad realistic.
Right.
He's like, so you got to have all the sounds to make it realistic. And this is before, there's no Pro Tools, there's no computer joint that just, let's do it like, let's line it all up. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is live. They want to hear the gunshots and the car pulling up and the traffic going by,
Right.
all while they acting this shit out. So what you hear on the skit is them acting and me performing the sound effects on the
Yeah.
MP.
Just flying everything on
Yeah,
a,
yep.
maybe on
So
a
when you hear the
keyboard
shots, that's
sampler.
my finger. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
hear my when you hear the shots, that's me on the MPC, like bah, 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 bah.
There you go.
Yeah, because I didn't know
Woo.
how I was gonna do it. I'm like, how
Mm-hmm.
am I gonna do this? Like, it was like doing radio and like before they had TV type shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so he basically would just lay out the whole skit, and then we just knocked them out. I think we did 2 takes of that skit, and I just had the. What I did was I did it on a 2-inch tape so that I could at least add sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I multi-tracked it at the MP, and I'm going through all the sounds. Like, yo, how's this for the gunshot? How's this for the car pulling up? How's this for the door slam?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hours and hours and hours of working
Yeah.
on these things. You know, I mean, if it was nowadays, I probably would have got production credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing was I wasn't expecting nothing. It was just a gig, and then when the album came out, they brought me a copy. Loud Records brought me a copy. My boy Scott Free and Matty C, they
And
brought me a
Majesty.
copy. Yep, they brought me a cassette, and they were like, "Open it up, bro," because they were like really happy to have gave me the credits because I really helped them out to get that album finished, the Capital Punishment.
Yeah. Great, great, great album, man.
Oh, amazing!
Forever, forever classic.
So top level, like greatest of all time type music, you know? I saw my name and I was like, yo, for real? And they were like, yo, you our guy, bro. Like, from here on out, you'll see your name on every record.
Did you engineer the song Fair Warning?
Oh, nah. I did some work on it a little bit, like,
Mm.
because, there'd be days where maybe the A&R guy is like, yo, put this song up.
Mm-hmm.
I need to listen to the hi-hats. Or,
Okay.
so it was like those type of sessions. But the major work I worked on was, did Dream Shatterer.
Mm-hmm.
I did the Tres Leches joint,
Okay.
which is crazy because Prodigy laid his shit. I don't know if somebody called Pun or if he was psychic, but he literally called the studio. Prodigy had dropped the verse like 5 seconds ago, and he's like, "Nasty, is it crazy?" I'm like, "Bro, this dude destroyed this beat." Like, because I mean,
Wow.
Prodigy at the time was literally the god. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like,
yeah.
he was literally like everyone was looking at him as the GOAT. And
Yeah,
that's why
man.
I fucked with that with Pun too, because as a hip hop cat, I fucked with his album, like who he chose to put on his album with him. Like, he had Black Thought on there early.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember him playing me the album and me being like, got Black Thought? Like, okay. He had Nori on some dumb out shit. Like, he really knew how to pick a beat and pick who should be on it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
really gave him a lot of, like, he did a lot of the A&R of his own album.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I actually got to play a beat, not for him, but for somebody else, and he heard it because we were about to start his session. I think I was playing a beat for the client right before his session started, and he came in and said, "What was that? It was magnificent." And I was like, "Yo, I'll play for you right now." And then a million things happened at once, and I never got a chance to ever play him a beat after that.
Wow. May both of them, Prodigy, Big Pun, may they
R.I.P.
rest in peace. You
Facts.
know, like I always say, may they rest in power. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
Nasty. You have this project, Nasty Loves You. It's like beat kit that you do, and then you have animation videos and all that stuff.
So basically, in this new age, sample packs is like the rage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are amazing. To me, it's the best ones are the ones that just sound like somebody's album that you can take some samples from. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I learned through messing with sample packs, people sending me them and just, putting them in Logic and just messing with them, I saw that I was able to like think about why we like samples as far as like what makes us really like it, right? Like
Mhm.
what makes that loop coming around exciting. And so I started to like take the sample packs and take the stems and mix them like I hear an Isaac Hayes record mixed or like whatever I thought the sample pack kind of sounded like.
Mhm.
And then that led me to be like, damn, maybe I could start like I'm not a musician, but maybe I could like make some of these packs. Like I know enough about music to play some melodies and shit. Like
Right.
and you know what it is nowadays. It's not like you gotta, the chops is more of can you come up with the shit and put it in the program because you can always tweak it in there.
Right.
So it's not so much about like I'm learning to be a better musician through it, but it's more about like, oh shit, it's not so much what I'm playing as it is how it sounds. So basically, I'm making sample packs for this dope ass website called the Drum Broker,
Mhm.
drumbroker.com. Simple is where you can get them. The first 3 volumes is called Spaceship Stadium. It's based on a sound I've been kind of chasing for a while. That's like kind of what it says, Spaceship Stadium. It's big, but it's something you can rock a stadium to.
Mhm.
And basically, it's like the sample packs is like for a beginner, they're just gonna get your pack and put some drums on it and call it their beat, which is cool with me because they
Mhm.
bought the pack. They bought the pack. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if a big placement comes, it's still mine. It's literally they're buying it and they can license it. So that's pretty much how the sample pack works on my end. And with the most of the packs that are reputable, and honestly, bro, I'm seeing that's kind of like the new mixtape game for producers.
For producers, right.
It's like keep coming with them. As long as you got the quality up, hit them in the head as many times as you can. Like I put 2 out within like 6-7 weeks.
Mhm.
So volume 1 and 2 is up. I'm about to drop volume 3. Like I'm literally waiting on the artwork and I'm sending it over type shit. And then with the animation stuff, I've had to tone it down because this website changed. Like it used to be, I don't want to say it used to be more creative, but it used to be more artsy, maybe
Mm.
call it. I don't know, but I used to be able to do some real creative shit, and I have a bunch of shit in the Smash. But more lately, I've been doing just simple 1 image animated for my YouTube page, which
Mhm.
is all my socials is NasteeLuvzYou. It's NasteeLuvzYou. That's all my socials: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and and I'm also selling beats on BeatStars.
Right.
Um, and a lot of people are kind of in the dark about this world of leasing beats. It's actually a beautiful thing because back in the days they would just rip your beat off of YouTube and just rap on it anyway. So now at this point, all those dudes that want to rap, they come in to buy your beat and not even buy your beat; they're just leasing it. So I might put a beat up and sell 20 copies of it. Because these cats want to be able to put their beat up and not get it taken down by SoundCloud or because if I do a search and find people with my beat, I could say take it down if they didn't pay for it, the lease at least.
Yeah.
So if anyone takes it's just like the sample pack. If anyone goes and gets a huge placement, I still own that either the beat or the sample.
Mhm.
So we still have to have some sort of conversation if you get a placement or if it becomes a hit. You know what I mean? It's like one thing about the business now, which I like, is
Mhm.
that you're more in control of your own destiny with making a deal to get some back end or whatever you make, whatever decide a deal you decide to do, like whether some front end money or leases or exclusives. It's way more upfront and forward and transparent more than ever. Whereas the music business, it was like, man, you can get beat so easily.
Mhm.
Like we've all been beat by people that just took beats and made songs. And I mean, I produced for Jin. Remember Jin, the
Yeah,
freestyle
the
dude?
rapper. Mhm.
I did.
Asian rapper
Yep.
Jen, right?
Yep.
Um.
I did joints for him. I never got paid. I barely, I think they maybe gave me credit, but that's the old days. Where in this new day, it's like, nah, fam, we doing it through either a label or TuneCore or. So we can just the numbers is split easily. That's why I love BeatStars. If you and me make a beat on there, we say 50-50. When
Yeah,
you
you
put the
can
beat up,
split it right there on the website, and
shit is beautiful. Like
yeah.
I do collabs with this dude Dream Life and Pain One. This dude DJ Pain One.
Hmm.
They put the beats up when it sells. My PayPal just gets an alert. It's beautiful. Those type of things, though, is more the future of where this is going, you know.
Hmm.
And as the music business kind of fell and crashed during this, especially during the COVID, we're kind of seeing the end of the music business as we knew it. It's just like any business. If you can keep your overhead low and you can keep productive, and the name of the game nowadays is keeping. It's got to be consistent.
Right.
It's like I put up a beat every Friday on my BeatStars page. You know what I
That's
mean?
what's up.
And when I talk to like some of the dudes that is doing way bigger numbers than me, DJ Pain One and these guys, Dream Life, they're like, bro, I put up a beat a day.
Hmm.
And I look at their catalog and I'm like, wow, these dudes got like 300 and 400 beats on their BeatStars page. So for me, it's about quality control, but I'm productive like that. I sit down and make 10 beats in a weekend. So more and more, I'm like, all right, let me just start getting a little more on some production line. Like I'm gonna
Yeah,
have it, still got it every Friday, but I'm thinking about starting to do it every Monday too.
that's what's
And
up.
then on top of that, I'm putting out like my old beats. These dudes was hitting me about doing a cassette overseas
Hmm.
of my beats from '94 when I lived on St. James
Yeah.
in Brooklyn. So they're like, "Yo, could we do a beat tape?" So I'm like, "Yeah." And what I'm gonna do is on Thursdays, I'm gonna do a throwback Thursday
Throwback Thursdays.
and
Yeah,
release
man.
those beats and
Get
release those beats.
yeah. Same here with overseas. Cats hit me about early like early '90s stuff,
Hmm.
and you find those tapes, the dats, you put them together. You like, oh damn, this should still sound hot.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Because
you get rid
I
of
played
them,
some of these.
man. Get rid of
Yeah, I
them.
played some of these beats from '94 for my guys in Pro Era and
Yeah.
Joey and them, and they were like, "What beats are these?" And I was like, "Oh, these are my old shits." And he was like, "They're like, let me hear it though." And I'm
Right.
playing it, and they're like, "Bro, these are crazy."
As far as Pro Era and Bad Mind, what is it exactly that you do at at the label?
So it's kind of falling back because of the COVID, kind of just deaded everything.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do over there is, at first I was Joey's engineer, so I mixed Before the Money album for him with Static,
Mm-hmm.
my guy Static Selector, and then I recorded and mixed I recorded the whole thing and I mixed Devastated, his Joey single.
Mm-hmm.
So I started as his engineer a couple of years ago, and I was working at his label as an engineer. So I was working with all the pros. And then when his label was really getting off the ground, he hired me to be his A&R man. So I was literally matching the dudes up with the studios, getting the producers locked in. Once the song is done, then I'm getting the producer contracts together and making sure everybody's on the same page. Lawyers is locked in, da da da. Fees agreed upon. And then from there, he promoted me to. I was doing a lot of stuff just all at once,
Mm-hmm.
so he promoted me to general manager, and that was pretty much me just overseeing all the guys on the team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the artists. Like I was overseeing the PR, our PR guy, and the art department, and just trying to get us on deadline. Getting deadlines met, and was literally what I say, general manager. It was a different thing for me. I actually never really did that fully. Like it was like a 9 to 5. Like go to the office,
Right.
10 o'clock. You know what I mean? Get some
Mm-hmm.
calls in, get lunch, make some more calls, make sure somebody finished it up, get home by like 6. It was a whole other thing. Like Joey would be like, "You want to come to the studio?" I'd be like, "Hey, I gotta get some sleep, man. I gotta get up at 10 in the
Right.
morning."
Right.
So, but it was cool. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how this goes now in the digital era. I learned a lot about social media from the big boys because Pro Era has a distribution deal through 88 Music,
Mm.
which is pretty much the independent Warner Brothers independent label management.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool because we're an independent label out of Brooklyn, but we were dealing with huge plugs through that Warner Brothers deal.
You guys have I don't know if you guys still doing it, the 47 minutes podcast. That was it exclusively on Title?
Yeah, it was dope because we were really trying to do an old to new, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like bridge, like a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's me and Joey as the hosts, and then one episode we had Static Selector and Lil Yachty,
Right.
which is dope because we got a chance to have a hip
Black
hop discussion.
Zombies.
Yep, we had the zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, we had zombies. We
Ben
had
Staples.
Vince Staples and Styles P.
Yep. Right.
Then we did one with JID.
JID. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then we did one with ASAP Ferg, but that one never. I don't know what happened with that.
You
Everyone just
guys
guess we
talk
got busy.
a lot about science on
Yep.
that show.
Yeah, we have fun with it. That
Mm-hmm.
was our thing. Was like, let's have fun with it. Like people would think we're flat earthers because we bring up flat Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't
Right.
say it was flat. I'm just asking you if you think it's flat.
Right.
People would clown us like, "Oh, you guys on the flat Earth train?" Like we're not on no train, bro. We're asking the question. Like, and that was like we started to find that it was like let's have fun with some of the because Joey thinks a lot of this stuff is hilarious. Like the way the media and social media, like it's just sheep. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he told the world he burned his eyes looking at the eclipse, and the whole world was like, "Oh my God, Joey Brad, that man has burned his eyes,"
Mm-hmm.
and he kept clowning it. Like so that was kind of our approach was to keep it lighthearted,
Mm-hmm.
but let's talk about science. Bring it up, like you say to somebody about like flat Earth's a good one because you say to someone, "What shape do you think of when someone says flat Earth?" Most people say a square. I'm like, well, see, they don't think that the flat earthers. They think it's round, just not a sphere.
Right.
So our thing was to like me and Joey both have the same philosophy in that way of like keep your mind open.
Mm-hmm.
Don't close it. You could still be right and keep your mind open. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not about that. It's about keeping your thoughts diverse, which was pretty much the thought process behind doing the 47 minutes. Was like, let's keep it open minded for real, for real. Like let somebody say something crazy. We want that. You know what I mean? We
Mm-hmm.
want to go there. I think out of all of the ones that we put out, I think the Flatbush Zombies one was probably the best one for that.
Mm.
Because it really got into that. You know how you get into that space where you're like you forgot the cameras and everything. You didn't even there's a whole crew there, but you're now locked in with just this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Zombies one is like over an hour and a half.
Mm.
Maybe even longer. I don't remember. But we were on some real like it's 47 minutes and the rest is overtime. Because people are like, oh, is it 2 hours and it's 47 minutes? We're like, you want us to shut it off? You want us to like tell Flatbush Zombies like, yeah, nah, we're at the 47 limit. That's it. That's
Right.
all for today. Like that's what I loved about it. We were free form with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it it got really good response from like the pro era fan base, and it streamed a lot of numbers. So I was really happy with it, man. I was proud to do it with my boy because I really watched Joey come up, man. I worked on his first album. He was a 19-year-old kid just starting to really bubble. I watched him become a millionaire and get things happening and put all of us on. You know what I mean? Everyone that was watching that was just helping because I was just in the beginning just I fucks with you, Joey. I got you type shit in a time like what's that like 2015 2016 hip hop was looking trash, especially in New York at that time. I was just
Mm-hmm.
trying to help anyone that was doing, and the good thing is we get rewarded for our good deeds, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
and I ended up working, that's my man to right now, you know what I'm saying? Like that's that's the homie right there. Shout out the whole pro era, all of them, like the staff, my man Craig, Levi, everybody, just really good people that I was so glad to help and eventually quickly too. Like it was eventual, but it was quick. Like
Mm-hmm.
I started making money with them. You know what I mean? Like I put some loyalty up, and it paid out. It paid out in a lot of ways because I'm good friends with him, and we made some good money together.
Chuck. Strangers.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Um, were you? I know he also a producer on his first album. Did you engineer it or what was it?
Yeah, I mixed it.
You mixed okay. You
Yep, I
mixed the
mixed the
first
first.
album.
Yep, and then I was the A&R for the album that he just I don't know. It's been a lot of stuff that he's done. Like what I like about Chuck is he just stays making songs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was helping him get that last his next album together, and yeah, we basically when he brought me the project, I was like, man, we need to mix this on like the old way we used to mix on the SSL. Like
Mm-hmm.
this album sound like that kind of music. So what I did was I mixed it all on Pro Tools the way he liked it, and then we brought it in the SSL room. We mixed that whole album in 3 days.
Mm.
So Nature Sounds was like, "Can you help me get this mixed?" And I was like, "Yo, we'll work it out, man. Give me a budget, and I'll get it done for you." You know what I mean? Like I have good relationships. You know, I'm somebody that I kept it honest and straightforward my whole career. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much good in any room I walk in, like with respect and love. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just approached the studio like, "Yo, I need the late nights," meaning whenever the staff goes home and we want to keep going, you know what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how we got it done. We just did, I think, 11 p.m. start time type sessions, and went, just I banged his album out. Literally mixed the whole thing in 3 days. Yeah, I did that also with another Pro Era album, Kirk Knight's album, Late Night Special. I recorded and mixed that album too,
Mm.
and it was such a dark sounding album. It was so dark sounding that I was like, "Yo, let's mix it on analog." And then we went to mix it, and we were even like, "Yo, it's so dark. We need to mix it at night." like, I like to mix during the day, but it was like, I didn't feel right with the windows and shit. It was
Mm-hmm.
like this dark ass music that we wanted it to sound as dark as possible. So what I did with that one was I bounced all of the things that I wanted to sound analog to tape and then
Mm.
back to Pro Tools.
Back to Bluetooth. Mm-hmm.
So the bass line to the tape, back to Pro Tools.
Nasty. What advice do you have for a kid coming up? That wants to get into engineering.
Um, it's a beautiful time if you want to do that because you don't like the education for it is easy to find. And the programs are pretty easy to learn. They're like learning any program now. It's
Mm-hmm.
like engineering is different because the mediums have changed. So it's a beautiful time to get into that. I'm noticing the wave of the future is that all these producers is turning into they all engineer their own shit and they produce all the shit too. Like that's kind of the wave of the future. So I would tell anyone trying to get into it, if you're serious, just get Logic, real talk,
Mm-hmm.
and just start. The best way to learn how a compressor works is if you have Logic or even GarageBand.
Mm-hmm.
You just put the compressor on the vocal and run through the settings. The settings will show you what it does, and you start fiddling with it. And the beautiful thing about nowadays is when you have a question, YouTube University is ready and willing to answer your questions. Like, and honestly, we're in a new era. Like, people have better speaker systems in their homes or whatever they listen to. I mean, obviously, even the computer speakers have gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
So we can mix differently. I've been telling people the other day, like, well, the reason why we didn't have super duper bass on some records is because the vinyl would skip because the grooves would be too thin from the
Mm-hmm.
bass. So it's like there's certain, but with this new digital era, it ain't going on no vinyl. You know what I mean? That's not. It's a different concern. Obviously, you don't want the bass to overrun the track, but it can be louder
Mm-hmm.
than those vinyl records. That's one good side of digital as far as the streaming and stuff is that it's like, well, most people that's listening has got either beats in their ears, which has got a really rich sound. People's home systems is people's cars. Like these things all have good built-in basic systems now. So, but to answer your question, I think the best way to do it is to dive in because it's not a crazy. It's you don't even really to know if you want to do it. You don't even have to go to school to figure it out. You can buy a program. I mean, if you're just learning, you could go buy. I think GarageBand is like $6. You could be making beats and learning engineering all in one on GarageBand in 5 minutes. You know, we come from the era when hip hop is science experiments. You know, back in the days, I did a project where I had to go through all the master tapes of Run DMC, all the multi tracks, and all those first albums. That shit is science experiments on the tape. You know, like that's them syncing the turntables to the drum machine by hand. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's how records was made. So now it's like, man, you could plug in and go in 5 minutes. Like drag a loop in, change the tempo, put a melody on it. You just produced.
Yep.
You know. So I would say in this day and age, if you really think you want to fuck with it, depending on your level of commitment, dive right in, get a program, start dragging shit in, start seeing what the bass does, what the treble does. You know, you start with the simple bass and treble, then you get into all those frequencies. I learned more about frequencies now than ever, actually. I never was really a technical engineer. It's more about my ear.
Right.
I'm more technical now than I ever been because I can look at the screen and be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I need to get rid of that little frequency right there.
Right. Right.
You know? Whereas
And bomb.
before I might have to literally just keep turning the knob until I find the frequency. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that was the real skill of the engineer in them days, especially, was the ability to pick those frequencies out of just by hearing it. Me, I'd have to go tune into it and find it, and okay, it's in this range. Now let me turn it down. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the dudes that taught me could hear it and just go, "Oh, turn down the 7K." You know, like
Mm-hmm.
they just know what hertz it was or whatever. You know what I mean? So I would say just dive in. It's with all of the music thing now. As much as it's oversaturated with everyone making music, I like that. I think that everyone should express themselves. I think everyone should, but you know, not everyone's gonna be a rap star or be the next thing. But that don't matter. Like, just make your shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially nowadays, people's. You know, I've seen a lot of my homies. They're starting to make money with the music thing because it doesn't cost a lot to put out if you got your own beats and little studio, and if you stay consistent, you'll start seeing a little couple dollars here and there. And if you really go hard, to me that's the beauty of it nowadays. You can just dive in.
That's
The
what's up.
more you want, you know, the more money you want to put in, the more you'll get it.
Nasty. Once again, how can the people find you on social media?
So it's real easy. I'm the same on all platforms. It's at NasteeLuvzYou, NasteeLuvzYou.